Yeah, so this is the 10th of April and the SIG specialization subgroup. So let's maybe first go through the status. Maybe let's quickly go through that, Bala, right? It's probably a good thing. So how do you want to do it? Should I share my screen and go to the...
Yeah, please, yeah.
One moment. I'm gonna check. R1, right? And then specialization. Yeah. So share screen. Here we go. You see my screen?
Yeah, you can see it. Yeah.
So do you want to go one by one, or?
Yeah, we could do that, or we can briefly check if any one of them is done or can be done today. I mean, it's the only thing I would suggest is, I mean, if anything, any of these items, if it's done, we can move it to.
Done means, for me, done means, is it approved? Because I have a few that are in the queue to get approved, but they are not approved yet.
Just for the, I mean, just for the clarity sake, I would say done means merge, just to make sure that it's kind of.
Yeah, it's merged, right? It has to be merged.
Yeah.
So if you look, yeah, there is a few that are, so this one is almost there, I think.
Yeah, I think some of your peers are almost there, in my view.
Yeah. So the one that I think are red or can be merged still is this one.
Yeah.
65. I think this one, in my view, is not done unless it got just merged. Let me have a look. Or is it merged? No, it's approved. It's not merged, it's approved, but not
it's approved by one person. So basically.
Yeah. So there needs to be someone else. So yeah,
and
so
then
these
some LGTMs also have to be there. Hopefully some of the people on this team also look at it and provide the LGTM. That'll be good.
Yeah. So for
and
me,
the
the
process
three
of reviewing this as well.
Yeah. So the three that I think are almost there or are ready to go are this one, 64. So this is not done, by the way. I don't know.
We can move it back, actually. You can just drag it back to the.
Just drag. Doesn't work.
Okay. It's okay. It's a PR, right? It's okay.
Yeah,
just check if you check if you need to sign in actually. You need to sign in because
okay, sorry. I was not signed in yet. Okay.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay. Wait, I don't have my phone here. Okay, I'll do it afterwards.
It's okay, Ben. I'll take care of it.
Yeah, or I'll go my other browser. This one will do it. GitHub.
Also, in general, when reviewing, I don't know what you guys have thought. Good to discuss blockers or things requiring attention that way.
Yeah, so that is that is one thing that I wanted to get attention to the people who are developing things. So this one should be here. This one is done. This one is done. This one is done. Yeah. So yeah. So, but I mean, let's maybe try to get the ones first that we try to get over the hump, right? So 65, I think if some people could, because we need another approval, which is not me, and the approver has to be the owners, right?
Yeah, I think I think one of on some of the libraries, Jan put some comments. This is late as of late Friday, I guess. I think it looks good to me, but John has some philosophically put some comment that probably you could do some of this thing with the reflections and then make it a comment or something like that. Probably if you could respond to that. I think at this point of time, it looks like, yeah, I think one of the core committers have to approve it and merge it. I think it's I know one of you four, I guess. Obviously,
so the
you're the
approver has to be the one of the or two of the owners, but I cannot do it myself, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
I think I gave an approve there. I remember that. At least I think it needs to be at least one of John or Tal or Stephen has to do it.
Well, also stepping back, right? We also need other people to do LGTMs too. It's not in a rush to merge PRs, basically.
Yes. No, sure.
Yeah, the idea is to actually get at least 4 people reviewing, with 2 LGTMs and then 2 people approving it.
Yeah.
That is all. I mean, I am looking at the PRs and I'm actually trying to understand, and running it on my system too. So it takes time. Basically, Wim, some of these things is very easy for you, but for now, me, when I've done 1 or 2 PRs, it's becoming easy. So hopefully for others who are looking at it, it'll be the same thing as well.
Yeah. So that's why I was asking if it would be good for some people.
It's very difficult to say so many people need to review. It's okay to say you need to at least have 2 LGTMs, that's fine. So I always encourage everybody to take a look at the PR, review it, at least use it for learning purposes. I mean, to me, that's one of my primary use cases. It's a great learning opportunity, but at the same time, we cannot let the PR be there for more than 2 weeks and waiting for 4 reviews. So
no, that is why it needs to be staged. I would like to, sorry.
So I mean, the PRs are there. I encourage as many reviews as possible at the same time. If there are 2 LGTMs and 2 committers approve it, we should not wait for any others to review it. That's what my thing is. I'm not suggesting we should merge it in a rush, but at the same time, we cannot just keep it there.
No, that's correct.
We agree, and that is why the planning, right? I mean, now this is the sprint one, and then slowly, I mean, I'm drawing my experiences from OpenStack, basically. Like, we used to plan for it. We used to plan the resources, actually understanding that there are people who are actually contributing code, and there are going to be people reviewing it. Sometimes some PRs would take, with maximum functionality, it would take 6 weeks because it has been planned for that release. And people used to push PRs in small patches. For example, there's another PR which is like 53 files on the workload side. Imagine reviewing that. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the idea is to plan for it, basically. So I know we had to find the middle ground. I agree with everybody here.
So yes. I think I saw that particular PR. Wish I was going to comment in that. I was going to comment in that particular subgroup. I totally agree with you. That's almost unreviewable at that point of time. So, but the good thing with this group is, I think almost all the PRs are of very right size and
correct. Good job on that, Wim. Really, I would appreciate. I appreciate what you're doing.
Not only that, and the test coverage, Wim. I mean, I really want to give a kudos. I mean, we suggested a few things, but a lot of good test coverage, a lot of right-sized PR. So
yeah, I mean, for example,
Wish, I'm not really pushing back or anything. I just want to give you some of the practical things. We definitely need. In fact, I suggest everybody should go and see the PRs.
I should at least run it and say, hey, I just executed the test and I was able to figure out what the coverage looks like. It's as simple as that too. Yeah. Because for me, when reviewing the PR, I was able to go look at the resource list, basically what compromises the resource list. I was able to go look at the open API spec for that. You see, when reviewing some of these PRs, basically we are building up knowledge as part of it. So Wim, something that you probably had at the beginning of last year or the middle of last year, we are getting that knowledge right now. So which means our next set of PR reviews will be more qualitative review. You see, we're building up that thing. So that is why, so Bala, I think your point is well taken. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, as part of this, we should also be able to take the lessons learned and say, oh, wait a minute, I think we are rushing on this. Maybe we also should plan for some of our PR reviews, because we didn't think about that people time will also be gone into reviewing PRs and coming up to speed on some of those things. So
absolutely. I mean,
those are the assumptions probably we didn't make or we didn't call out. So, I mean, I've done this. I'm sure most of you have done this in the past too, right? In our mind, we push a PR. I'm sure somebody's got the time. They'll go review it, but they have to make the time and they have to change their mode and the context to actually go review the PR and the corresponding material for that. So,
yeah.
So I think we are agreeing, basically, except in different words. And I agree with you as a release manager, Bala. You're concerned about making sure there is velocity. I agree with you as well.
Yeah. Yes, I
But
think
let's
we are all
not
in agreement.
actually.
Then we also agree we also agree the importance of reviews, right?
Yeah.
And it's if this is a feedback loop, isn't it? So
Correct,
when
exactly.
somebody pushes the code, and let's say the team doesn't review it, and the team does, and then the problem is the issue is obviously that somebody pushed the code. The author of the code doesn't have the review comment, so that author will push a new PR. But if the team takes time to review it, then the author gets the review comments, then he has to go back and fix it. So it will automatically control the velocity of the PRs if the team takes the time to review it.
Correct. That is why I think this people have to speak up. You're saying that, hey, look, I didn't have time to review the PR because I was working on this task. Maybe, should we like sort of throttle some of these PRs, slow down on some of it, will come out as a result of these discussions. So this is a good discussion.
Absolutely. I was going to make that point.
I mean, it's good to have a deadline on this so that people can act on it. I've been trying to do the same thing what we should at myself, but I think everything are not you can't build all these PRs locally, because I had reached out to Vim too, because there's a dependency on the existing libraries and so on. I mean, that's also
the function runtime has a dependency indeed. So, but the rest is okay, I think. So the ones that we are talking about right now are okay. That's maybe what I learned from this, let's say, sprint, is that we should make these composable. So basically, say that's why I was saying on Thursday or Friday. Here are the PRs that I think are this could be reviewed, because there is a number of them which are not yet in that state, but there are a number which are in that state, and they don't have the dependency. So normally you should be able to test it. The other thing that I saw is that in the beginning we pushed these PRs and there was no makefile at the time. So there is at the moment sometimes a little bit more or a few too many files, but so through the review we are fixing that. But I think there is 3 which are, I think, close to be ready. And I think there's one more thing that I wanted to say. So we have to probably plan, as you say, Vish, a bit better with respect to that.
Right? Yeah. That is what this is going to be, right? Because this is a new team. In the past, I'm sure in our professional lives, we have worked with our own teams and we have slowly got to the better state. So this is a new team and we are going to get there. I have that hope. So we will. Right? It is only that we need to speak up, that's all, and say what the challenges are. Right?
Yes.
Akash had his hands raised. Just want to hand on. Akash, you have something to say, please?
Yeah, Bala. So one question I had was like basically how many approvals from the owners and what are to basically like approve a PR. That question I had, and also one thing is like, do we have a design template? Like in the design, these are the things which we have to look at. Like maybe something like the diagram explaining the component modules or something like that. Is there some, if we're able to come up with some guidelines on what should be present in the design, because I've not done this for an open source module, right? So if someone can just briefly tell me like what can be done, so that will be useful for me as well.
Thanks, Akash. From your the first question, right? The approval side, I mean, technically there are 2 approvals we needed, and one of them has to be from the core committers. The core committers at this point of time are 4 people: Wim, John, Stephen, and Tal. Only 4 of them can approve and merge the code. final approve and mark the code. So I would say for a given PR, at least there should be 2 approvals, and one of them at least by the core committee committers, and then so that's how it is. And then, but I think, but more reviews the merrier, right? We don't understand that one, but at least that is that. And from the design side, I'm not sure of any particular requirements as such. We're not following any particular template, Akash. If I remember, Akash, Wim, please add if you have any opinions there. But we are, yeah, generally, I mean, if you think a diagram is helpful there, it's good to put there. But I don't think we follow any strict template on that one.
So that could also be part of your comment, Akash. When you are reviewing it, you want to probably ask that question there. Hey, where can I review this so that I can actually match up to see what it is? It may be relevant or not relevant for that particular PR, but it is good to. Those are the kind of things we expect. Somebody looking at a PR and saying, "Hey, I looked at it. I ran the make file. I ran the test. But how can I actually go look for certain documentation to actually review the correctness for this?" It's a question to be asked in the PR. It's okay.
Okay.
And then it'll slowly build up to where you are asking.
What you see is that there is in the meantime, for example, okay, so these are generic libraries, but these are the interface functions. Well, there is the interface, and this is something we have to discuss probably today. Is where did I see interface library? So we changed our approach. So John made a comment. And I don't know whether it's the right time to discuss this topic, but I think it's important that everybody understands this.
Yeah.
So this is a library that we use to actually get and set interface related stuff, right? Now, John basically pointed out. Now it's not so much a problem here, but I think it's a good practice. Basically, is that in YAML. So what we did so far is we converted to a Go struct, right? And so we marshaled and unmarshaled from a Go struct, so from YAML to a Go struct, and that is of course very type safe, or is type safe. The issue is that, or the challenge could be that you lose comments. So YAML file, you can insert comments into the file, and it is not a guarantee that the YAML marshal and unmarshal will retain those comments if you do that approach. So John actually said that it's better to just use the methods that are in the function SDK. And I changed this. So I started this morning after this comment. I changed this method or this library with that in mind. So the difference is, so for those people who reviewed before, so we always have a new object which gets the YAML bytes in it. And so now we are parsing this and we store a cube object file. So this is the object that the function SDK exposes, right? So that is a way to get, and so we hide everything through an interface. So there is an interface related to this object. And then we have a set of methods. So there is a set of getters and a set of methods that are associated. And so what we changed is, instead of, so before we were marshalling a Go struct from that bytes. So we are unmarshalling that into a Go struct. But with that approach, you could lose comments. I did a few tests and I didn't find it, but I think there are corner cases where you lose it. So John suggested to actually leverage the function SDK approach. So I have changed this library in the meantime to do it that way. So in other words, rather than marshalling to a Go struct, we keep it as a YAML object, and then we have, so for all the metadata and the type meta and the meta files, you have straight access to most of the objects like annotations, labels, namespace. You have direct access towards, so you don't have to to a function. But of course, the content inside of the spec that we have in the interface CRD, like get attachment type, get CNI type, network instance name, those are hidden. So those you have to write code for yourself, because otherwise every of these libraries have to parse it. So I changed this library, and it seems that we should do this across the board to change it to this way of procedure, because that's allowing us to keep the YAML as is without losing those comments.
What is the library I'm using?
So this is the function SDK library. So
Okay, that gives us the comments, basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
so rather, so before we were using the Go struct, right? I still have a way to, so basically now I have the getters and I have setters, right? So you see it here. There's one discussion still here is the validation. And so the problem that you have is that you don't have true validation, whether we should put this inside of this code here or whether this should become part of the API repo itself, right? Because we might want to use this somewhere else. So potentially this is still to be changed, I think. So I have validation inside of here. So for the setters, because you could set attachment type to something, and there are constraints to the values, right? If you just accept a string, you don't have that. So the validation needs to happen, I think. But whether this should be part of this library or whether it should become part of the API interface types is for me the question. I believe it's better to put this on the interface API repo itself rather than here, because I see other uses of that that capability potentially. Right.
I'll look at the PR and ask for more questions.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. So essentially with this approach, the one thing I like with the earlier approach, like you said, is the type safetyness.
Yeah.
And the natural way of accessing things because of the Go struct. Yeah, I think that is so. So in this particular case,
now in the sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, is there a middle ground? Because so essentially for everything we need to write code like this. Anything inside the spec, is that right?
Yeah, everything in the spec, in the status that you want to manipulate, I want to get access from. So see, there is of course a difference between getting information and setting information. So it's particularly important when you update the object.
Okay.
Because when you mutate the object, you change the YAML, let's say, struct potentially, right? Yeah. And if you don't retain the comments, okay, you basically change it. But yeah, the Go struct have no clue what the comments are, right?
Right. Yeah. So basically,
so what comments are we talking about? Why is comments relevant? And I couldn't get that point.
The author.
See, a package contains of YAML files at the end of the day, right? So because it's a Git, and so that package can be manipulated by humans and by code, basically. And so normally you cannot from this program insert I don't know yet how to do it. Maybe it's possible to insert a comment somewhere in the file.
Oh, okay. So when you write back, you mean you lose that. Okay.
Yes. So that's a concern that John raised, which we probably should adhere to, right? That we should not lose that.
So I briefly did a Google search. There's something called as a Go YAML that does it. But since I only know part of the information, I'll review your PR, and if it's appropriate, I'll share that with you on the PR.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. See, I did some testing with the Kubernetes thing. So I did some test with comments. So on the kept file, for example, and on some. So far for me, it worked with the approach, but I think there is a concern that it doesn't hold.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
I
Anyway,
have
as
to-
part of the reviewing the PR, I'll test it out and provide the comments.
I did some testing. So far, I could not find a problem, but
Sure, I will also do the review of this and then provide. But yeah, those are my straight off the top. This thing that two things. One is the type safety of the ghost track we are missing, and also for accessing any element, anything, anytime some YAML structure changes, we need to add a new method to access that particular element. So basically, the verbosity
agree.
and that verbosity and the constant requirement to change this particular code whenever something is added or deleted.
I agree. Yeah, I don't like it either, but yeah, it's a chicken and egg problem.
Chicken and egg, yeah, true. I'll also take a look and let's see whether we can do something like this. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so that's for me the most important piece here is that we have to decide how we are proceeding, because this is relevant for all the libraries, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So this is for me the urgency behind this to ensure that we agree on a strategy and then stick to it, and then So I just changed this one. I didn't change anything else.
Got it. Okay.
Just to get a view or to discuss it and see how people think about it. But I fully agree with your comments, Bala, but it's a trade-off between that and retaining comments.
Yeah, I know. I think sometimes it becomes easy. I mean, you lose all the benefits of software engineering, but if you end of the day, if the solution is not correct, in this particular case, retaining comments is part of the requirement. If I think I agree with you. I think we will take a look. Thanks for doing this. This is 65, right?
This is 64.
64. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we have to make a decision on this. The sooner we can make a decision, the better, of course, because this will have an impact on all the other libraries. Now, there is one more thing which we need to discuss as well, is that we kind of have two library or type of libraries, if you will. One is where we start from an existing object and we want to read information and we potentially manipulate it, right? There is another requirement, so sometimes we have to generate an object from scratch. Okay. So these are the two approaches. So for example, the IP allocation and the NAD are two examples where we generate from zero, potentially, right? So if it does not exist, we have to generate from zero. Now here, also here, we have to decide what to do. It applies to the same thing as well. Now, my view is the following, is that, or my line of thought is the following, let me put it, is that if we start from zero, there shouldn't be comments, right? And it will be generated by a machine. So for that, I have the feeling that the Go struct is probably the better starting point, given the type safety and all the advantages you get from it. But of course, from the moment it exists and you want to mutate it and you have to change something, you should use the other approach potentially, right? Depending on our decision. But I have the feeling to generate the initial YAML object, I think it's better to start from a Go struct than to try to build a YAML based way of representing that thing. I don't know whether anyone has any views or comments.
I think I agree. That makes sense, because we are in control.
Yeah.
So if it is starting from scratch, yes, I agree, because I mean we are working in a strongly typed language, so why not take advantage of type safety?
Yeah, correct. So that's why we have the generator. So the generator is the one that that starts from 0 basically. So there doesn't nothing exists, and that generates that new object. So my personal view is to retain the Go struct there, but of course, from the moment you do a change, you mutate the object, or you mutate the object. You have to use potentially the new approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments or views on that?
Don't know about the issues. It seems like you're far ahead there in terms of trying out the different combinations and looking at the. Good that you have
maybe
it.
maybe
when I look
let me
at the
give
test cases, maybe I'll have a better idea. When I look at and analyze that, I'll probably be able to figure it out. Is what I'm thinking.
Yes, yeah. Just to give you some context, Fish, is so the difference is, in some cases we basically want to. There is a YAML file in the package, and you want to read the comment, or you potentially have to update the object, right? To, for example, for like say the interface library that you see here is something that will be already in the package, right, from the start. So we just read it. We want to get access to the various objects, and then we take actions from there. So that is one part of it. So that's one category of capabilities that we need. The second is, yeah, go ahead.
From a high level, what I see when I'm trying to understand this, because I'm treating this as a black box for an end user, is I have a set of KRM resources that I put into one of my, let's call this an organizational blueprint, right? And I've actually written the YAML files as a template, and I have a bunch of comments written out there explaining some of it. And then when it gets into the deployment repo, I find that these comments are missing. That seems to be one of the, what I thought was the John's comment was basically like, hey, look, got this.
That's correct.
And now, depending on the language, whether it is Go or whether you're underlying using Python or whatever, it seems like the requirement is, hey, if you are actually picking it up from the template repo and you are actually creating some customization and dumping it in the deployment repo, I want to be able to retain the comments is what is the expectation seems like. And that seems to be the issue. And you're trying to figure out a way to solve that problem. Is the problem statement that I'm aware of. Is that correct?
That's correct. Now, I just wanted to point out is that that is true as when there is an existing file that has comments, right? And
yes,
you don't know whether it has comments or nothing.
Yeah.
There is a second use case where we generate and there is nothing.
Makes sense.
By a machine. So that's the other scenario.
Correct.
Now, so the pro of a Go struct is you have the type safetiness and you have all that all the methods around it, right?
Yeah.
The disadvantage is if we go to the approach that you just saw right here, then we have two different approaches.
Correct.
So that's the pro, and so that's the dilemma.
Okay, I will when reviewing the PR and looking for some alternate implementations, I'll keep that in mind, because as we were speaking, I was looking in Google and I found some libraries which may or may not be relevant, but let me review the PR and put my comments there. That way it is easy. Let me test it out.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the pro is that so that's a little bit the dilemma we are facing.
Got it. Understand. We are losing something, moving to another approach is what you're saying. Yeah. Which may not be maintainable.
Yeah, and then you have different approaches for different things, and that's also not good always.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
Understood. I think I understand from that problem statement perspective. So it looks like there is new generation of YAML as part of the processing that happens. But is it going to be transient, those new generation of the YAMLs?
Typically it's a one-time thing, right? Because if you really want to retain comments, so from the moment the object exists in the package, a human can manipulate it. If that's the case, then we have to take into account that we also retain the comments there, right? So as a result, so there is a niche scenario where we have to generate something that does not exist, in which case, of course, the human cannot manipulate it. Of course, unless he puts it himself. Yeah.
And is that generated YAML going to be pushed to a deployment repository?
In some cases, yes. For example, today NF deployment or UPF deployment or SMF deployment doesn't necessarily exist as a starting point. So in which case, yes, it could be. And for example, NED is another example where it's like that. Yeah.
I see. Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And so in my view, so this is an important design. So towards a cache point, this is something we have to document. So this should be documented, our strategy. Once we have finalized upon it, we should document it and then explain why we came to this approach, and then have other people understand that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one. So maybe we go quickly through the ones that might be where we would like people to look at, because it's not to merge ASAP, but to actually get feedback, which is I think important.
Yeah.
One question, Wim, I mean, in some of
yes.
these, the one that the PR that you have, I mean, there's no design.md file. I mean, is that intentionally left out for some reason, or it's just?
Yeah, because our original the original idea was it's just a library, but now it turns out to be something different. So what I'm suggesting, or what I would suggest is we have. If you look to, it's hard to see here, but you see here, if you look to the directory, there is then a library with all the interfaces. What I'm suggesting is that we put a design MD file under lib, because all these libraries will follow that design. So we should create an ISO. From the moment we have it finalized, I would propose that we put not in each of these functions the design, but actually as a general principle on how these libraries should, and what the strategy is behind them, should be documented with a single design thing, and then you have specific implementation of them.
Yeah, that will definitely be useful. Yes.
Yeah, that'd be good. Because there are some cases where I saw in the different PRs. Again, I'll put those comments in the PR. That way, everybody is aware. Where we are doing marshalling and unmarshalling too, right? You know, in the different libraries too. So.
With the new approach, with this new approach for mutating, right? For mutating and getting access, not for the generation. There's no YAML parsing anymore. No marshalling anymore. Sorry. So there, so you see here the only that is parse cube object. So this is basically take bytes, and then actually this function does YAML unmarshalling and marshalling under the hood, but it's hidden. So. But yeah, so all the marshalling unmarshal is gone with the approach that this new approach. I'm not sure whether this is the way forward, but here you see there.
Yeah, I was looking at that this morning basically, and I was looking at why do we need a new object? I was thinking because we had that, but that struct which holds the cube object. The cube object is actually basically common, right?
Yeah, so this is kind of, we cache that object. So the idea is to hide that object behind the interface and then have a bunch of methods on it, right?
That's what then I realized. Basically, you want to use that as the anchor to be able to give the specific for the interface. Things like get attachment type, CNI type definitely seems to make sense. Which means that means you're characterizing that cube object is basically an interface object. Basically,
yes, yeah. So the idea is you hide the YAML from it, and you have a set of get methods onto it to get access to the data.
Yeah.
And so this gives us the type safetiness, because if every program does it by himself, they have to, of course, adhere to the specification. The downside of this library is, as Bala was mentioning, is that if there is a change in the interface spec, so that's the disadvantage of a ghost struct. With a ghost struct, you get it naturally because you import that library, and of course you have to import the right version, right? If you do that, you normally get it. Here, basically this you see here. If spec attachment type, there is a certain order. If the order would change at some point, so I put it somewhere else, you have to update this library. and they are decoupled somehow. So that's the disadvantage of this approach.
Yeah. This is going to be, yep, a bit tough.
Yeah, so that's the problem with this approach, is that every time you change the spec, or you have something to do.
Yeah, because then I was thinking, because if you know there are existing functions, I know I don't want to monopolize this conversation, but there are certain functions out there already written, in containers, which can go look generically for a certain, the path, traversal path.
Yeah.
I was hoping that could be used. So those were all questions that was going on in my head while I was reviewing some of those PRs. The chaining that can be done in a pipeline, for example, search and replace is one of them, but not that we have to do it here. But there's a search function out there that you can actually use generically. I was thinking,
Yes, yeah. But you have to also you have to put these values inside, right? So you have to put this field, the path. This is kind of the implicit path here.
Yeah, but it's a relative path is also what I had seen. But
Yes.
again, let me go ahead and put my comments there. That way, at least, see, this is what this has been helping. This reviewing this PRs is helping us delve a little more deep into existing functionality and be able to appreciate it or question it and understand the differentiation, right? So, so thankful for the small PRs that you're putting. It is at least helping us dig a little more deeper, at least for me. So
yeah, sure. Yeah. And what I did add is I added a function that you can add the whole interface spec. But so from the spec here, I will be able to generate the object. So that's one method I added as well. But this is the Go struct basically, and from there I call these functions. So you manipulate the file. So if you want to override, the spec with certain things, and this will retain the comments, by the way. Okay, so basically, let's go through the libraries or the
So the list that you shared last Friday still is the same,
yeah,
right?
it's the same. It's the same. Nothing
those
changed.
5 things you want us to focus on. I would
Yes.
say let's focus still on those 5 things. Let's finish that and then go to the new set of.
Correct. Yeah, and that's actually the list.
Even among them, right? Even among them, he has changed the approach. So that's the thing. I think he wants us to do the 64 now because that may change other PRs.
Yeah, 64 is important. So the two high importance. I see this one. I think this one should be fairly easy because that's just an interface to make the others a bit easier. So that's kind of table stakes in my view. So that's not a problem. This one for me is important because of the strategy behind. So the 64 is an important one because we have to agree on a strategy and then stick to it and implement that across the board. So this has a priority from that perspective. The sooner we can agree to that, all of them will.
Yes, I think based on that, your other PRs will change.
Yeah. What you don't see in this one is I didn't put the generator in because I don't need a generator for release 1. So that's missing from here. So my plan was the one where you need a generator is IP-alloc or NAD. So one of the two, I was planning to look at that and update that according to this, just to see how a generator would work. And I want to do it today still so that we see it. But maybe we should stick IP-alloc or pick IP-alloc just for now. So that would be, what is it, 66.
Yeah.
And then this resource list, I think it's almost there. So this is not as urgent because of the strategy, but yeah, this is used in the function runtime all over the place. So that's why not unimportant.
And that one has enough comments as well, I guess.
Yes,
so,
and I addressed all of them. I think there's one that John made that is open, so I asked him to comment. I addressed all the comments on this one, including your concurrency test, Vish. So I added them on.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Because I was wondering about the concurrency, right? Again, a couple of sentences. What I understood, the problem statement there is you have multiple controllers actually looking at a resource.
Yeah.
And trying to update that KPT file, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So, and that is the reason. But I also understood earlier that at any point of time, only one controller can act on it because it needs to look at a certain status before it can act on it. It go reads it and then figures out that unless it has changed its status, it cannot just go update it. Basically, one gets done. It's still sequential, seems like. And
For the functions, you're right. For the function, that's correct, but not for the controller. So what for me is unclear is how port schedules them. So in the function, it's a sequence, right?
Mhm.
There, and it's a single go routine, so you cannot have it. So I agree with John. But in the controller, it's different because their ports basically schedules the controllers to run, and there they can unless port schedules them also in sequence.
Mhm.
But it's a watch, so my view is that normally a watch should go parallel. But I don't know the exact implementation. So that's the only part where we could have a challenge. Now I agree. So Bala's point is the following: if you build a library, you never know how people are going to use it. So adding concurrency, let's say protection, is not bad.
Yeah, that was the thing, right? We should not assume one particular implementation is going to follow certain patterns. Because, for example, tomorrow, if I may write a function, I am very new to the function. I may just write things in parallel within that function. I may just have two Go routines.
No, you cannot. You cannot.
We cannot. Okay.
No, you cannot.
Within a function.
Because
I thought it's just a code, right?
Yeah, but I think they protect you to only have one Go routine.
There's a protection. Okay.
Yeah, that's what each of the functions are just doing one function. That's all, nothing else. So, because otherwise that thing is just a wrapper. The RW mutex is the only thing that is actually coming in. Otherwise, it's like,
Yeah, that's correct. It's actually fairly
just blindly call what is already out there. That seems to be the only add there on that particular one is what I felt. But again, that is why asking us for the test so that we can appreciate the why this is being done. Yeah,
it is a test to it. So
correct, good. At least we are thinking about it, because the other thing that I read was like, you need to run some long running tests to actually prove out that there is a concurrency issue. That's one way. Having a failure test also would be good to have, and saying, see, this is why we are having this concurrency issue. So that is one way, but we can always batch it up at some point of time to prove that we do have a concurrency issue here.
So Web, just a question. So I'm writing a function, for example, right, using the function SDK. At some point of time, it is purely routinely a Go code, isn't it?
Yes.
Obviously, there is a thing. There is a bootstrapper code, and after that, inside whatever we write is general Go code. So, are you suggesting that when I write that general Go code, I simply cannot say Go of some function? I cannot have a sub Go routine inside that?
My understanding is that in the SDK, they are so when you run it in the library, they protect it. Because you're right, you could do that, not a problem. But you should also get access to that. So when you write a program, you can say, I can have only so many Go routines, and you can limit it to one.
So they will not let you run anything in parallel. Okay. That's kind of
at the moment.
Yeah.
At the moment, all the functions are non-concurrent. That is not true with the controllers, by the way. And we access these kept files with the packages through both means, right? So the controllers is a different story.
The controller is, yes, we need this, obviously, controllers. But I didn't know that it's kind of they're restricted. That may be restrictive for other reasons, but that's okay. We can that's a philosophical thought. we can I don't want to diverge there. Yeah. Because
I think the idea is they are small, they are doing one thing and they are done, right? So it's so that's a bit the idea that they had behind them. So they should not run, like say, a task. If that case, you should actually call 100 functions.
Right. You should not. Yeah, should either write another function or maybe write a controller.
Yeah, or have a runtime that basically schedules you 100 functions, right?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, thanks. One important thing here that in my view, I don't know, in your, what do you think, Wim, is that function runtime thing that you wrote? That's
Yes.
also probably one of the important things in my view.
Yes, I'm going to. So yeah, I was trying on Friday, but I didn't get it. And actually today was actually a holiday here, so I didn't spend too much time on it. But so this week is my priority to finalize the strategy and have an agreement. So, but that's for me, sprint 2. One of the key priorities is to get function runtime. Probably the name will change, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
it will be. But yeah, that whole thing, as you suggested, is to have one call from the functions, and don't distinguish between upstream and downstream or whatever we call this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing that we have to resolve ASAP, and then yeah. So my focus is going to be on that as much as possible.
Cool, thank you. So since our discussions are hidden somewhere in the Slack, I'll put that in that issue so that we can get easily access to that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I was able to, I mean, not related to this, but on Friday, the section 5.2 developing in Go, where you are able to build a function and test it out, I was able to run it in my Golang IDE and step through it. So that was a good milestone for me, at least, in trying to understand what's happening there. Because I remember you saying that if you take that approach, what they have, there are some limitations, but I still wanted to just go through that and understand and how they're actually adding results to that, basically.
Yeah. Results you can do, what you cannot do. If you look to the abstracted SDK, I don't think you can add a resource.
Yeah.
Did you try that?
I haven't tried that. I only went through just whatever they had in section 5.2, basically.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'll reach out to you later.
That's fine.
Yeah. Basically, I wanted to understand. I remember you mentioning that there is a certain limitation with the approach. One,
it's adding a resource. So you can mutate, you can delete, but you cannot add.
Generate. Okay. Yeah.
And this is related, in my view. My theory. That's my personal. Is that if you read kept, they always say mutate and validate. They never say generate. Right?
Generate. Yeah. I think I also saw that it is probably a design thing where I found something else too on that.
They have an open PR on generator, but it's an open,
because which means anybody can stuff anything, basically, right? It has to be done in a okay. I need to go. I got somebody at the door, but thank you.
Also, Wim, so basically, I'm right now when I'm implementing for my NF deployment, I'm assuming the UPF deployment, AMF, and SMF schemas from the POC. Okay, so I think we need for me to be concluding on the concluding anything like that. This one of the major requirement, right, for my function. So I need the schema so that even to write my library, I need the schema, right, to know exact spec what is there.
Yes, agree. Yeah. And I think they are checking that part in as we speak. So there is a PR ongoing for that, Akash, for UPF.
So can you, okay, let me check that, because if there is anything I want to comment on that, I'll go and verify.
Yeah, so it's basically, it's an under API.
Okay.
So, 1 moment. Here.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So if you go to these PRs, here, UPF deploy, check it.
That I need to get
number 8.
time dates for. I was supposed to call Rory with the transaction number. Did I get the correct extension?
Sorry.
Can you mute him?
I mute him. Yeah.
Okay.
So here you see it being checked in. You see?
Awesome. Let me review that. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
But this we need for all the three, right? Because my NF deployment have to make the distinction. So and also we decided on that day that that based whatever is required, right? So I will have to review what is required, and my function will see, in this case, if UPF deployment, it requires N3, N4, and N6. So I'll validate from my side that these three interfaces are present. in my implementation. So some validator function also I'll write accordingly. So that's what I wanted to also call out. So I'll use the schema as my source of truth.
Yeah. Now, here is my view is that you should not validate explicitly the interface type. You should check the interfaces that are there, because we have to trust sometime that the info that we get is okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
You see, so for me, the validation is not really needed, because that means that someone, a human, there can be other interfaces that you need later on that we are not specifying at the moment. So I rather not do that validation, because that means otherwise we have to update it all the time. We should assume that the package, because when we get a blueprint package, there is a content on the type of interfaces or the amount of interfaces. We should just take whatever is there and assume that what people gave us is correct.
No, but the problem with that is the ready conditions. If you see the KRM runtime, right? Like, so the ready conditions will say false if it is not present, right? Like, so if there is
No, because see, if we get only 2 interfaces, right?
Okay.
We will act upon 2 interfaces. We don't want to, I think in our specialization, we don't want to say, for this UPF, we need these interfaces. That's a job of the blueprint people that designed them.
Okay, okay.
But shouldn't you be raising the flag? Suppose you have your N4 is missing or N3 is missing. These are like, you can't do any UTF without that, right?
Yeah, but it should already be in the blueprint package that it should be flagged.
Okay, no, but I'm saying, yeah, post that, you just assume, okay. No, but because it doesn't make any sense, it's not going to go anywhere anyways.
Yeah, but we can have a generic validation function if you want, Ravi, but we should not put that in the specialization.
Okay,
so
okay,
that could be a generic validation function
Yes.
that we write onto a blueprint package that does that, but we should not in specialization deal with that part, because otherwise all of our code will be very specific, and we should make it generic.
Yeah, I think we miss explaining the separation of concerns.
Yeah.
It is not a concern of specialization.
Yeah. It's a concern of the blueprint package. We have to ensure it's correct.
Yeah.
And then there we can write a validation function that does that. But yeah. All right. I have to drop actually. So yeah, so on Thursday, so on Wednesday, yeah, so I canceled the meetings on Wednesday, by the way. I don't know whether people see that or saw that.
Yes.
And then, so there's only Monday and Thursday. So my goal is on Monday to have more of a discussion on the PRs. So maybe every meeting have a bit of a discussion. Now we did a bit more. But on Thursday, I'm going to try to finalize function runtime and go and get discussion to get the thing going, and try to hope we get agree on the way forward. And I'll share what I come up with before. I will discuss with some people and stuff like that, and then because we have to make a decision on that as well, plus what we just discussed today. These are important, 2 important elements for us.
And then the board will be set up by tomorrow for next sprint. I'll do that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks all, and talk to you later.
Okay, cool.
Thank
you, Vim. I know it's a holiday for you. Thanks for doing this on your holiday. Yeah. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.